Today we're in the Black Cemetery in the Eldorado section of Altoona. This is one of the area's oldest cemeteries and probably the most unmaintained cemetery in our area. Some of the Eldorado residents who were prominent in their time are buried in this cemetery. The reason this was named the Black Cemetery is because of the last person who was buried here was Jerry Black. Today we're going to be looking at the ruins of this cemetery, and while we're looking at what's left, I'll put in some information over the video, so enjoy. So as I mentioned, we are in the Eldorado section of Altoona in the Black Cemetery, also known as the Riling Cemetery or the Eldorado Cemetery. This is basically the only cemetery really in Eldorado. As we are approaching into this cemetery, we are already seeing headstones like these, broken in half and weathered and toppled over, leaning against trees, most likely far from where they should be. Just like this one here. His first name is James. And this cemetery is a very historic cemetery. And this one is fallen over. Can't read the first name on it, but it looks like they died 2 days after their birthday. 37 years and 2 days. In April of 19 teens, somewhere in the teens of the 1900s. So as we head back over here, the first burial was James Riling in 1851. James was a part of one of the prominent families in the area, which was the Riling family, who built a lot of the homes that you would see on 58th Street on this side of the tracks. And those houses are right below me, and looks like somebody threw a mattress down over the bank there, and that's a common thing with the cemetery. Gravestones are down over the bank there. As we head back over here, James Riling was buried in 1851, and here is his older brother Alexander, who died in March of 1916. And his headstone is supposed to be on top of that piece there, but obviously it's not. And the last person was, of course, Jerry Black, as I mentioned, in 1926, in November of 1926. And we head over here to the name giver of Eldorado, John Riling. He made the first burial here of his first son at 16 years old, was buried here. And here is John, gave the name Eldorado to this neighborhood, which we can see a very picturesque view from here as he looks down on the neighborhood that he was a founding member of. John Riling was a postmaster here at Eldorado, and he built several homes, as I mentioned, for himself and the other early families, such as the Colclessers and Kissels, and several are still standing today on 58th Street. There is rumored that there is an Indian buried here on this hillside, and there hasn't been any evidence to prove that, but it has been rumored. This cemetery is located near the Katanning Trail, an old Indian trail used from the early 1700s into the late 1700s, used by the original Native Americans that were here in this area to the white men, the first frontiersmen, with their horses and wagons. And I am basically standing on the Katanning Trail right now as You look at this stone here, it's father, a part of Alexander Ryling's gravestone. The Katanning Trail ran from Katanning, Pennsylvania to Shirleysburg, and in this area ran pretty much parallel to 58th Street, up towards the Horseshoe Curve, to Elstey Fire Tower, to Asheville, to Chest Springs, and like I said, all the way to Katanning. Just a stone throw away from here, a battle took place in 1781, which I will cover in an upcoming video as we walk back over here to John Ryling's headstone. This cemetery was once maintained by the Eldorado Cemetery Association. They took care of this cemetery and made sure that these people final resting place looked nice and wanted to keep the history alive that is just right above the ridge here on overlooking Eldorado. And you can see that this is not the greatest shape. It's seen better days for sure. Nature has taken over things here, just like it has a lot of these other cemeteries across the state and across the nation. And it would be nice to reinstate the Eldorado Cemetery Association and even the Blair County Cemetery Association to help maintain these cemeteries and prevent vandalism that has, just like it has been done already here, as headstones are broken in half and toppled over and in disarray. Like, you can't even tell that there are 56 people buried here, which it's hard to believe that this is right in people's backyards and they don't even know it's here. There are a few indentations where you can see in the ground where somebody was laid to rest at some point, which I will walk over to in a second. But this is surely sad, and it would be nice to designate a plaque or a sign with all the names of these people in this cemetery, just right at the entrance, and make sure these people get the remembrance for what they did. And this is history being forgotten. You know, there are people here buried before the Horseshoe Curve was even opened in 1854, with James Ryling being the first buried here in 1851, and there wasn't somebody buried here not until 1865 when his 5-year-old nephew died. You have people here buried 100 years ago whose relatives today might not even know where this is. And another 10 or 15 years or even 5 years, what will things look like for this cemetery? And I bet these people in these houses down here, new generations and new generations continue to move into these houses. And stories of this cemetery and information about this cemetery is slipping through the history books and slipping through the minds of Eldorado's residents. So, with an Eldorado Cemetery Association, it would be nice to clean up this cemetery and maintain it and keep the rich history of Eldorado preserved. Like, to the left of me is John Ryling's headstone, and the man is responsible for us calling that little town below me, Eldorado. And as I walk the Katanning Trail, which is another piece of history that is forgotten about, right here, Indians and frontiersmen walked 200, 300 years ago, and it is just hard to believe that this is all here. Like I said, there's some visible indentations in this vicinity, and so this historic cemetery is fallen into ruins. Like I said, the grave markers are not necessarily at the grave, and with trees growing possibly over top of graves, it's hard to tell just where exactly everyone is. And according to the FindAGrave database, there are 56 burials in the database, but there could be more. As a part of my upcoming book, The Eldorado Saga, originally written by Fred Long in 1971, and I will be republishing it, and hopefully to have it out this fall. I will try my best to look through newspaper archives and death certificates to see just how many people are buried here and what they died of and what happened to them. So that is going to wrap us up for today. Be sure to subscribe to Allegheny Mountaineer and like Altoona, Pennsylvania history on Facebook and Instagram. And we're going to be doing a lot of unknown history in Blair and Cambria counties, bringing some of the lesser known history into the light and letting the future generations and the generations that are here now what actual important history is here. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, don't miss anything, and thanks for coming along. And if you're interested in saving cemeteries like this and you're in Blair County, it would be great to start a cemetery association for the area to prevent cemeteries to begin to look like this one.